Hi, Dr. Ruby Payne. We're back with Emotional Poverty Book 2. We're on Chapter 2, which is the prefrontal cortex. And one of the things we know about the prefrontal cortex is that it is where we do our working memory. It's executive control. It's where we develop empathy, where we make a moral judgment. It's that where we regulate our brain. It's the prefrontal cortex. And two things in particular that are of interest to educators are ADHD, because of the number of students we have with that. And the second issue is anxiety. And both of those come out of the prefrontal cortex. In your book, you have several pictures of brain scans, and they're from the work of Dr. Daniel Amen, and he is a psychiatrist who used brain scans. And one of the things he shows you in there is what the ADHD brain looks like at rest, and then what it looks like when it's trying to concentrate in the prefrontal cortex. It actually has more holes in the brain. It's a physical thing when they truly have ADHD. Now, he comments that a lot of children who have ADHD have actually had a fall and fallen and done brain damage. But the other thing is that for whatever reasons, if you look on page 34, they are unable to hold beta waves in their brain for long periods of time. Beta waves are what you have to have in order to concentrate and actually get work done. So one of the things he's pretty clear about is that a lot of it is physical, not environmental. And there is a checklist if you want to look at kind of things that come out of an ADHD brain. Anxiety is the other factor out of that brain. And what we know is this, is that it can come from the amygdala. It's an emotional response, and those create triggers. Or it can come from the prefrontal cortex, which is anxiety. And there's a lot of what-if business there. Panic attacks tend to come out of the amygdala. And so one of the things, if you look in your book on page 38 and 39, one of the things we know is that there are triggers. Like, for example, this comes out of the amygdala. When several years ago, I was driving and my son was much younger, and we were in Dallas actually, and it was raining very hard. And we were on a 3-lane interstate, 6-lane actually, 3 each ways, and my car hydroplaned going down a bridge, and we rotated across 3 lanes of traffic. I was terrified, okay? And thank God we weren't hurt. But to this day, when I get in a heavy rainstorm, my heartbeat increases, immediately I'm terrified, and it's a trigger for me. And so your body reacts. One of the things that's important to identify when it's amygdala, you have an immediate body reaction, okay? And in my case, my heartbeat goes up. It is obvious that my prefrontal cortex is not in control anymore. I have elevated breathing, and the message to my brain is, watch out, you could probably die, okay? And the coping strategy I have is I just pull off the road and wait till the heavy rain is over. Now, you can begin to see if you can identify and have a coping strategy, then it allows you to negotiate a lot of situations. Also, in your book, you have a whole series on page 40, 39 and 40, the things that create anxiety. Daniel Amen calls them ants. They're the little things that nibble at us, okay, and crawl on us. But it's thinking, like all or nothing. And there's a strategy in here called if-then. You have to find a time it isn't true, and then you say, then this wouldn't be true either. Like, for example, one of them that people use a lot is nobody likes me. Well, then you say, it's an all or nothing kind of thinking, and one of the things you can say is this: well, if my mom likes me, then probably other people like me too. See? It takes away that all or nothing. It's called if-then. And it's one of the most powerful tools you can teach to students. I was working with 3 high school boys, failed the exit level test every time in math. This was their last chance. So when I went to work with them, I gave them skills tests, and I found out that they had the skills, but they had all quit sometime during the test. And so after we had a conversation, I said to them, do y'all have driver's licenses? And they did. I said, well, then here's what you're going to say to yourself. If I can get a driver's license, then I can pass this test because you have the skills. You just have to finish it. And it's that if then. And the reason you want if then is this. If you just make the statement, you can do it, the brain kicks it out. You have to tie it to something they already can do or know to be true. And the brain then is much more forced to be aware of it. So as we look at prefrontal cortex, there's also a section in here about learning and how it's so related to learning. So as we work through these strategies, knowing about ADHD, knowing about beta waves, knowing about the anxieties and having tools for those, it makes our student performance much better, and it allows them to deal with their emotional issues much better.